News Radio 700 WLW.
So J.D. Powers does this on a yearly basis. And in 2024, it conducted its North America Airline Satisfaction Study. Now, bear in mind that flying in this day and age doesn't even compare with the ease and the comfort of travel of 50 years ago. 50 years ago, screenings at airports for weaponry and things like that was in its infancy. Most people that flew in a relatively decent dressed manner. Now you get all methods of dress. Most people who flew got something or some sort of thing to eat or drink, and it didn't cost them any money. All the way back then, most airlines operated on time. But then deregulation kicked in. Various upstart airlines came along. Various upstart airlines left. I remember an airline called People's Express. Do you remember People's Express? It might have been the first low-cost carrier in the world. And it was like herding cattle. Get them on, get them off. Well, they went away. Other airlines with the same kind of thought went away. But here is the list of airlines that have topped J.D. Powers' North American poll. Number one, Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines flies into Greater Cincinnati. I have not flown Southwest Airlines in a long time, but I know it wasn't so long ago that they had major logistical problems. It was a year ago Christmas when people were stranded, and Southwest was like, JetBlue is on this survey. They're at number 5. Spirit Airlines is on this survey. They're at number 10. Those are basically flying aluminum tubes with daily altercations. People against people, people against airline attendants, flight attendants. How in the hell would anybody put those two airlines anywhere near a top 10 list? Well, sure, they're cheap, I guess. Spirit, of course, and JetBlue do not fly into Greater Cincinnati Airport. But flying is anymore kind of a laborious thing, as you well know. I'm sure the people that J.D. Powers talked to were very sincere in their love of these airlines, but for the life of me, I don't know why. Standing by to weigh in is somebody that is an expert on customer experience. He's a 2-time international best-selling author. His latest book, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. We've had Richard Weylman on the show before. He's kind enough to carve out some time on his Saturday to join us. And Richard Weylman, how are you on this glorious Saturday afternoon?
I'm fine, Ken. Good to hear your voice. Thank you for inviting me, my friend.
Well, I'm glad you're back. I really am, because I'm having a difficult time. Number 2 on this list is Delta. This used to be a major hub for Delta Airlines here in Cincinnati. It no longer is, since Delta was acquired by, I guess it was Northwest, and no longer is Delta a hub, but they do have a significant number of flights out of Greater Cincinnati and is the largest airline that is flying in and out of this town still. Delta, my experience with them, by and large, has been pretty good. I think Delta does a nice job. I don't think any airline seat is comfortable anymore unless you pay an exorbitant amount of money. I don't think any airline is completely on time anymore, but Delta does a pretty good job of that. I'm shocked Southwest is at the top of the list. It may be my ignorance from not flying them for a few years, but the last time I flew with them, I wouldn't call it the best customer experience. How in God's name would any group of people vote that airline number 1 out of, I guess, 11 that made the top 11?
Well, let's understand J.D. Power. Who are they actually surveying? They survey for this particular, shall we say, customer satisfaction about airlines. The only people they talk to are verified motor vehicle owners.
Motor vehicle
So in
owners.
other words, that's right. J.D. Power uses verified vehicle owners for all of their surveys. So the reality is that, I'm sure you're catching a swath of individuals that also fly, But what they should be doing, and what I would suggest, they need to be interviewing people that are actually flying, or at least flying on a consistent enough basis to have a true, shall we say, opinion about the overall experience. Southwest, catastrophe last year. You mentioned it. You're exactly right. Now, one of the reasons Southwest gets high scores usually is because of the entertainment value. When Herb started that airline years ago, of course, he passed away, and he's not, and he gave up being CEO. But he was extraordinarily employee-centric. And his mindset was, if I get my employees are happy, they're going to make the passenger happy. And if the passengers are happy, the passengers are going to pay the bills. And, of course, it's worked for them. Delta, same direction. They really take care of their employees. Now, if you flip it over, though, and you realize this, look at American Airlines. I mean, where are they on the list? I think they were sixth, if I recall correctly.
They're number 6.
Yeah, so they're number 6. So they just replaced 650 customer service reps with AI. Tell me how that's going to work out. What people don't know is their morale is so low. They just spent $250 million. They opened it in November, a 600-room hotel for American Airlines employees only in Dallas, so they'll have a place to stay when they're on the hub, and it has a gym, et cetera, and they did it to, quote, improve morale. So that tells you a great deal about where they're going. But they're way late at the game. You and I both know that.
Sure. United's on this list at number 8. I mean, the overriding vision of United I have is for a while there, and it was less than a year ago, it seemed like there was consistent video of people being dragged off a United Airlines flight. United was a disaster a year ago, and they're number 8 right now. That's another one I don't get.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable that given the experience, number one, you got a lot of old planes at United. Number two, they don't run their hub very efficiently. I was flying from Denver to Chicago for a speaking engagement. I had to fly United. It just made sense. I hadn't flown them in years. I was shocked. At how rude, just plain rude, the flight attendants were. The boarding process was chaotic. And as an example, I had a seat. I sat in the seat, and this guy came up and said, "You're in my seat." Turns out he had the same boarding class I had in terms of the same seat. And then the flight attendant said, "Well, sir, you got to give up your seat because this was printed first." I'm like, I don't mind giving up my seat, but is that the way we're going to do it here? She said, "Yes, sir, we have to do that." So you just say, "Okay, great. I mean, is there a seat? Do I have to sit in the lavatory, or how am I going to get to Chicago?" And they put me in another seat at the back of the plane. But the point is, it's the way that's the approach that's done. And Herb had it right in the beginning. If you take care of your employees, those individuals are going to take care of your passengers, and those passengers are going to pay the bills.
Yeah. I remember.
Delta's done a good job at that. Yes.
I was on the first flight that Southwest had from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Dallas. It was a big deal. This is, my gosh, we're going back 45 years ago. And, of course, they fly into Love Field in Dallas, which was great because DFW was so enormous back then. It's only gotten bigger. But it was an enjoyable flight. They had open seating. You could, basically you board, you queued up, and you just went on and you got whatever seat you wanted. It's something less than that right now, whether or not the metrics or the disciplines are still the same. It's something less than that right now. Spirit Airlines is on this. Spirit Airlines basically is a flying boxing match. Every time you see some flight attendant in a wrestling match with a passenger, invariably it's Spirit Airlines. I don't know how they made the top 10. Do you?
No, not at all. And I saw some others on there. There was WestJet was on there, which is ridiculous. Allegiant Air. I mean, Allegiant is what's their hub? Vegas. They fly to like 120 different locations, but they have no affiliates. In other words, they don't. Delta's partnered with other airlines, et cetera. They have no loyalty program, and yet they're third. I've flown Allegiant. No thanks. Incredible. Old planes, old seats, and. If you're lucky, if you're really lucky, and you talk nice, you'll get a little bit of water, and you might get a present. If you're nice.
The thing about the one thing I will say about Allegiant, I fly Allegiant a lot from to Florida, and they're point to point, so they at least get. They're on time it may not be all that great, but they do get you there because they're point to point. So if they strand people in Cincinnati, they're stranding people in one of their Florida destinations, and they lose basically
Right.
2 fares. But if you're one of those people that are stranded, you're right, you have no recourse. It's not like you can take your unused ticket and go to the Delta counter at whatever those airports are, because they don't, they won't honor it. But that's one of the reasons why they can operate, is because they're low cost, and you have to know the limitations going in. I've often said about airlines like Allegiant, like JetBlue, that doesn't have a terrific on-time record, like Southwest, that had that fiasco Christmas before last. I said, if you don't absolutely have to get there, if you're not going to be inconvenienced or you're going to lose your job or whatever it is, then okay, just understand what it is going in, that you'll eventually get to where you're going. It may not be on the date you want to get there.
You're exactly right. And if you really think about, Southwest, where it is, part of it's the entertainment value, part of it's the convenience, I think. Delta, I'm a little surprised they're number 2. They used to be number 1. Maybe it's just who the motor vehicle owners they interviewed this time. But the truth is that Delta, they have spent it's incredible the amount of money they've spent on training people. They've improved the thing called Delta Comfort. They've improved, if you fly first class, they have a thing called Delta One. You have your own entrance, your own, everything's complimentary, beer, wine, premium snacks, etc. So I'm a little surprised. I think what Bastian's done, and I'm not a huge fan, he's a bean counter, and he really made some changes to the frequent flyer program that really caused an uproar. He had to backtrack all of it. But the one thing I think that Delta, it's a real reflection on how they've trained the staff at every level to raise the bar for the customer so that they get an elevated experience. And Delta is packed. I fly them a lot. I've flown over 5 million miles on Delta, Ed. And I can tell you, and they go, it's unbelievable what Ed's done at that airline to get the staff all on the same page, that it's not about the airline, it's about your experience. Yeah. That's really, I give him credit for that, Ken.
Richard Weylman, our guest. We're talking about this airline rankings of customer satisfaction done by J.D. Power. Well, if they're interviewing people that drive cars for what they think about the flying experience, should we pay any attention to anything that J.D. Power does?
Well, that's kind of where I am. We're a research-based consulting firm. I'm privileged to have one that we've started years ago, and we do a lot of work in many industries. And people often call me and say, well, the J.D. Power, and I'm like, okay, let's put the brakes on. Why don't we talk to your customers and find out what your customers are saying? Well, J.D. Power, okay, but you're in the air conditioning business, you understand? And they're interviewing people in the northern climes that don't run air conditioning 24/7, and they're trying to tell you what the best air conditioning system you should have. Let's go talk to your customers and find out what they believe is the best system, as an example. So there's a lot of, how should we say, a lot of people put a lot of credibility into J.D. Power, and it's a great outfit. And the CEO's a great guy. They try to do the right thing. But vehicle owners is their baseline of those they interview. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. You're right, to have Spirit Airlines on there, seriously?
Yeah. Well, they don't fly here to Cincinnati, so I only know what I see in the news, and I'm like, my gosh. And then, as you mentioned, United. They had a tremendous PR problem with their CEO when, they had these instances of people being bumped because of masking or bumped because of overbooking. And it's just, the specter of people being dragged off a United Airlines plane. It's just like, what is that? I don't know why anybody, other than the fact that maybe some of these people live close to a hub where United is. I'm surprised that they even made number 8. That was an airline with, if Southwest had a bad couple of weeks, United had a really bad year. And I'm just wondering how they even made number 8. It's shocking.
No, you're exactly right. And I think what essentially was done is there's like a dozen major carriers. We'll call them major. I don't know that we call Spirit major, or WestJet, but we'll call them major, meaning they have enough, they're doing enough lift, they're moving enough people that they're considered important in the survey. But the reality is that if you really cut it, there's about 3 airlines in the whole country that are really doing a decent job of making it happen. Delta's one, Southwest is doing one, Allegiant, which I've flown a little, not a lot. They're good. But after that, I mean, look at Alaska. They have really gotten themselves in trouble. JetBlue, you nailed it. I mean, I've been in Fort Lauderdale, and the only flight to New York is JetBlue, and I'm like, I'll take Delta and connect to Atlanta, thanks. And,
well, where's the bus station? How close is that bus station again?
Dial 1-800, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. Same thing with American. I mean, I tell you a quick story. At American, I'm in Houston. After speaking in Dallas the next day, I get on a plane in Houston to fly, American Airlines, I'll fly up to Dallas. Quick flights, an hour, not even that. But it took me a grand total of 5.5 hours to do that flight because the plane was an hour and a half late leaving Houston after we got on. We sat on a tarmac. And then when we got to Dallas, of course, we had to sit there for another hour and a half waiting for a gate. It was really good. I thought, I could have hired a driver and been there in 5 hours and not had all this aggravation.
Right.
Just crazy. So
well, I'll tell you what, one guy would not want to cross any way, shape, or form is Richard Weylman, because he knows customer experience better than anybody. And your book, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life, it was either the last time we spoke or the time before that. I went out and I bought the thing, and I'm reading it, and a lot of it is common sense. Richard, it's just understanding what the other person really needs from a relationship, and then finding ways to service that. And, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But it's always about who the customer is, because it's not about you, it's about him. And I just wanted to put that out there because I thought it was a tremendous piece of work. I hope you got another book left in you.
Well, perhaps I do. This is my third one. My previous one is The Power of Why, Breaking Out in the Competitive Marketplace. It's in 7 languages, and it's continuing to do very well. So, I don't know. I may do another one. What I try to do is figure out what's going on in the economy and what's in business, and then talk to consumers as you're reading the book. So thank you first for buying the book. But the important thing is, as you see in the book, I mean, I actually talked to people and said, if somebody wants to get your business, what's it going to take? Well, use my proper name. My name's Elizabeth, but I go by Betty, and they keep calling me Elizabeth. And stop emailing me and say, dear customer, you don't know my name? And stop sending me a letter that's in English on one side and Spanish on the other side, because you probably should know. It would be, I don't want to be arrogant, but, it does annoy me that I get this kind of mail. And another thing is, stop calling me and telling me you want to follow up with me when you're selling me something. If I'd made a decision, I would have already called you. So don't be calling to follow up with me. Why don't you be calling and say, listen, I've thought about this further. I've identified 2 or 3 additional steps we can take to help you get this purchase in place, Richard. Great.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
So it's just, great. So again, when you talk to people out there in the marketplace, just as you do it every day, you see it. And you see people, and frankly, where people are, people are fed up, absolutely fed up.
Well, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. You go on Amazon right now, you can get it delivered by tomorrow. Ain't life grand in this day and age?
Yes, sir.
Richard, thank you so much for your time. Stay well, and thanks again for your time here today. We appreciate it.
Well, it's great to be with you. I'm here for you if you need me. Thanks so much, Ken. Have a great weekend.